Gossip, a certain adventurer's reflection. What's wrong, Vincent? Sighing like that. Nothing, just thinking about how I wanted to eat good food again. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that I want to eat Mukouda's cooking again. I thought you'd agree, Rita, his food really is way too good. The other members nodded in agreement at Vincent's deeply serious comment. Honestly, I agree. I think back on the escort mission we took just recently. It was a mission that would be hard to forget for us, Iron Will, in many ways. The man they were introduced to at the Adventurers Guild was a man with a flat face, unlike what you'd usually see in the area. He was of medium build, and I understood just from sizing him up why we would be hired to escort this man on his travels. He seemed completely unconnected from the concept of strength. The man introduced himself as Mukouda. He said that he wanted to cross the border to the next country, and we ourselves were just talking about how untrustworthy this country had become. So we planned to leave soon ourselves. Thus, we decided to accept the request, even though the reward of 8 gold was a little low. The road to the neighboring country was relatively safe, but the deciding factor was the fact that he would take care of all of our meals. The price of meals wasn't actually something to take lightly. With 5 members, it could cost quite a bit. Normally, meals on the road consisted of such fare as jerky or hard bread, stuff which was definitely not tasty, but one had to eat it to be able to exert their power as an adventurer. I completely expected that the food he would prepare would be no different, but the food ended up being on a whole other level of deliciousness. The food Mukouda prepared was the equal of any famous restaurant in a big city. The soft bread, made from special recipe from Mukouda's homeland. The ham, which was salted just right, the juicy sausages, and the warm soup with lots of fillings. It turned out to be an excellent feast that no one would have expected during travel. We were overjoyed to realize that taking this request was the right choice. Of course it was. After all, we were able to eat tastier food than if we were in town. The only monsters that came out during our travels were small fries like goblins and gray wolves, and even the red boar we encountered wasn't that much trouble to us. Normally, if an adventurer hunted a monster while traveling, they only took the expensive materials like the hide or fangs, ate what they could of the meat which would otherwise spoil or be damaged if taken, and left the rest. However, Mukouda had an item box, so we were able to take the meat too. The meat that Mukouda cooked and flavored with something from his homeland was, again, a masterpiece. It was so delicious, I would go so far as to say it was the best thing I'd eaten in my entire life. I would have never thought it would be the reason for what happened next. Lured in by the delicious smell of Mukouda's food, a Fenrir, a legendary magic beast, appeared. Even though, as a legendary magic beast, nobody alive had ever seen one, we instantly knew that it was a Fenrir, and we understood that we could not oppose this absolute pillar of strength. I was really panicked then. I felt like I was already dead. It was the first time I felt that cornered since I had become an adventurer. It wasn't surprising. We were facing the legendary Fenrir, something that was said to have destroyed entire countries, a force that mere humans could never hope to stand against. However, the Fenrir did not attack us at all. Instead, it looked at the food Mukouda cooked and said, "Give me some too." There was no way for us to oppose the Fenrir, so we told Mukouda to do as it said. And once it ate Mukouda's food, the Fenrir said something unbelievable. "I shall form a contract with you." At first, I thought I misheard. I had never heard of a legendary Fenrir becoming a human's familiar. Not to mention, the last time anyone had supposedly seen one was 300 years ago. Leaving aside the long-lived elves, we were probably the first and only people alive in the present who had ever seen a Fenrir, and he formed a contract with that Fenrir, which most people never even get to see. Not only that, but the Fenrir was the one that requested it. Given the impossibility of refusing the Fenrir, Mukouda ended up forming a contract with him. And so Mukouda named the legendary Fenrir Fel. We witnessed that oddly historic moment. Just the reason the Fenrir formed a contract was to think that the legendary beast was lured into a contract by food. The thoughts of us five were in unison at that moment. Mukouda, exasperated at that fact, stopped being so nervous and approached Fel normally, but there's no way any of us could have been as sanguine in his shoes. Mukouda didn't really understand, but when someone got a familiar as powerful as a Fenrir, not just nobles but entire countries would take notice. It was a rule that they would try to take in and keep the strong under them. When we made our worries known, Fel's answer was, if they lay a hand on us, they might as well perish. That put cold sweat onto my back, because Fel was clearly capable of making that happen. Hearing that, I could only pray that the nobles or countries didn't do anything stupid. Without even minding that, Mukouda just told Fel, who had a voracious appetite, if you want meat, hunt it yourself. When we heard that, we could only stare open-mouthed and dumbfounded. I give my respect to Mukouda, who could tell a Fenrir, a legendary beast, to go get his own food. I thought it might not just be that he was lured in by food, but that, inexplicably, he might have perceived that quality in Mukouda already, and formed a contract for that reason. Fel would probably never form a contract with those that would only think to use him, like nobles or countries. It didn't seem like Mukouda intended to use Fel's power one bit. Rather, there probably wasn't even a temptation to use his power. To Mukouda, the real problem was how much Fel ate, after all. Ha ha ha! And the prey Fel hunted after Mukouda told him to go get his own meat was none other than a rockbird. How could I not be shocked? Rockbirds were B-rank monsters, the kind of opponent that we as a party would not be assured victory against, even if we gave it our all. The last time we fought a rockbird, not only was everyone covered in wounds, but Vincent even broke his right leg. Mukouda tried to give us all the materials other than the meat from such a huge catch just because we butchered it. He said it was payment for the butchering and the red boar meat, but it was too much for what we did. But Mukouda insisted, so we reluctantly agreed to take it and saute that in such a short time. We were vividly reminded that all the legends about Fenrirs were true. Thinking of that, the grilled rockbird was delicious. That sweet and spicy and salty sauce was 1 in a million. This is bad thinking about Mukouda's food. Is gonna make me drool. Getting into Venin was also a piece of work. Of course, even the fort realized that Fel was the legendary Fenrir, and all the guards were already outside waiting for us. We got them to understand that Mukouda and Fel were contracted, so we were eventually able to enter, though. Well, either way, if Fel got serious, the fort and its guards would be about as tough as air, and the country itself would be in danger, too. They understood that. Fel listened to what Mukouda said because of their contract, and between opposing them and stirring the hornet's nest or letting them into the country, they would probably choose the latter. Those two were immediately accosted by a messenger as soon as we got to Faliers, but Fel sent him packing. I think it'll be busy around Mukouda from now on, but it'll all probably be solved by Fel. Thinking like this, those two, one human and one animal, might make a good pair. I wonder if Mukouda will open up a restaurant somewhere for us? While I was basking in the recollection of that adventure, Vincent went and said that. I'm hoping for that too, and we can immediately go there and eat. Rita, a bundle of appetite, agreed. I think so too, and I'm not really that particular about my food. Even Franca was of the same opinion. Truly. And the quiet Ramon. Honestly, I'm with them. But more than that, it'd be nice if we could meet again. Everyone nodded in agreement. The flat-faced man that didn't look strong at all but was great at cooking, and Fel, the legendary magic beast that was lured into a contract by food. I hope that we can meet those two again.